Elon Musk reportedly borrowed $1 billion against his Tesla shares in a single year and paid roughly 2% interest on that money, while the average American credit card holder paid 24.62% interest on a balance of just $6,360. Same species, same planet, same financial system, completely different rules. The richest people on Earth have figured out how to use debt like a wealth-building machine, while the rest of us use it like a trap we can't escape. And the craziest part? Nobody taught you the difference. Today I'm going to show you exactly how the wealthy turn borrowed money into more money, and how you can start using the same logic, even if you're not a billionaire. Hey, I'm Joe, and this is Joe Invests. This is the channel where we break down money in a way that actually makes sense. No jargon, no suits, no talking down to you. If you've ever wondered why it feels like the system is rigged, well, some of it kind of is, but not all of it. And understanding how the game actually works is the first step to playing it better. So let's get into it. Let's start with the numbers because they paint a picture that's honestly hard to ignore. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances, the top 10% of American households hold roughly 70% of all the nation's wealth. The bottom 50%? They hold about 2.5%. Now here's where it gets interesting. A 2021 ProPublica investigation called The Secret IRS Files revealed that many ultra-wealthy Americans, people like Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, and Michael Bloomberg, paid astonishingly low effective tax rates. Bezos reportedly paid a true tax rate of just 0.98% between 2014 and 2018, while his wealth grew by $99 billion. How is that even possible? It's possible because the wealthy don't live off their income the way you and I do. They live off their debt. This strategy has a name. It's called buy, borrow, die. And it's not some underground secret. It was described in detail by University of Southern California tax law professor Edward McCaffery. He's been writing about this for years. Here's how it works in plain English. Step 1, you buy assets that go up in value: stocks, real estate, businesses. Step 2, instead of selling those assets and paying capital gains taxes, you borrow against them. Banks are happy to lend you money at low interest rates when you've got hundreds of millions in collateral. Step 3, you live off the borrowed money. Loan proceeds are not taxable income. Step 3.5, you die. And when you die, your heirs receive those assets with what's called a stepped-up basis, which essentially erases the capital gains taxes that would have been owed. Nobody ever pays the tax. The wealth just keeps compounding. Meanwhile, the average American household carries about $7,951 in credit card debt, according to TransUnion data from 2023, at an average interest rate of 24.62% reported by the Federal Reserve in late 2024. Let me put that in perspective. If you carry a balance of $8,000 at 24% interest and you only make minimum payments, you will pay over $17,000 in interest alone before the debt is gone. And it'll take you over 25 years to pay it off. So the rich borrow millions at 2% to get richer, and ordinary people borrow thousands at 24% and get poorer. Same tool, completely opposite outcomes. A 2023 report from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy found that the U.S. tax code provides over $150 billion per year in preferential treatment for capital gains and investment income, the exact type of income the wealthy accumulate. Meanwhile, wage earners, people who trade time for money, pay the highest effective rates relative to their income. This is the structural foundation, and most people never see it because nobody explains it. So why does this happen? Why do the rich get better terms, better rates, and better outcomes from the exact same financial system? There are multiple mechanisms at play, and I want to walk through the big ones. The first is collateral asymmetry. Banks are in the business of managing risk. When someone like Larry Ellison walks into a bank, or more likely, has someone walk in for him, and says, "I'd like to borrow $500 million against my Oracle stock," the bank sees almost zero risk. The collateral is liquid, publicly traded, and worth far more than the loan. So they offer rates as low as 1 to 2%. These are called securities-backed lines of credit, sometimes referred to as SBLOCs. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, they all offer these products to high net worth clients. A 2021 Wall Street Journal investigation found that the total value of securities-backed lending had ballooned to over $800 billion. That's not a niche product. That's a pillar of wealthy financial life. Now, when you walk into a bank and ask for money, you might not have stocks worth $500 million. You might have a credit score of 680 and a used Honda. The bank sees more risk, so you pay more, way more. This is what economists call the poverty premium. Sociologist Daniel Hatcher at the University of Baltimore wrote extensively about how the poor pay more for virtually everything. Higher interest rates, higher insurance premiums, higher fees, not because they're less responsible, but because the system prices risk in a way that punishes people with fewer assets. The second mechanism is tax architecture. The U.S. tax code is not neutral. It was designed over decades of lobbying and legislation to favor certain types of income over others. Long-term capital gains are taxed at a maximum of 20% at the federal level. Ordinary income, the kind most people earn from a job, is taxed at up to 37%. This isn't an accident. Research by political scientists Jacob Hacker and Paul Pearson in their book Winner Take All Politics shows how organized interests have systematically shaped tax policy to benefit asset holders over wage earners since the late 1970s. The third mechanism is psychological, and this one is maybe the most important for you and me. Behavioral economists like Sendil Mullainathan at the University of Chicago and Eldar Shafir at Princeton conducted research published in their book Scarcity, showing that financial stress literally reduces cognitive bandwidth. When you're worried about paying rent, your brain has less capacity to make strategic long-term financial decisions. The wealthy don't just have more money, they have more mental space to think about money strategically. They can afford to be patient. They can afford to take calculated risks. They can afford advice. And there's a fourth mechanism that nobody talks about enough: financial education asymmetry. The wealthy teach their children about money, assets, and leverage from a young age. A 2019 study by Merrill Lynch found that 75% of high net worth families discuss wealth with their children regularly. In the general population, studies from T. Rowe Price show that only 23% of parents feel comfortable talking to their kids about money at all. So by the time a wealthy kid turns 18, they already understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. Meanwhile, most of us learned about debt by getting a credit card offer in college and making every mistake possible. The game isn't just rigged financially, it's rigged informationally. Okay, so here's the part that actually matters. What do we do with all this? Because I don't want this to be one of those videos where we just complain about the system and then you feel worse about your life. That's not why I make these. The wealthy use a specific logic when it comes to debt. And while we can't replicate everything they do, we can absolutely borrow the principles. Pun intended. Principle number 1, understand the difference between productive debt and consumptive debt. Consumptive debt is borrowing money to buy things that lose value. Credit cards for clothes, dinners, vacations. Car loans on vehicles that depreciate 30% in the first 2 years. This debt makes you poorer every single day. Productive debt is borrowing money to acquire assets that generate income or appreciate in value. A mortgage on a rental property. A business loan for equipment that will increase revenue. Even a student loan for a degree with a clear return on investment, if you've run the numbers. The rich almost never use consumptive debt. Almost all of their borrowing is productive. Your first shift is to start seeing debt through this filter every single time. Principle number 2, attack high-interest debt with mathematical precision. If you're carrying credit card balances at 20% or more, that is a financial emergency, not a mild inconvenience, an emergency. Here's a specific strategy. List every debt you have with its balance and interest rate. Pay minimums on everything except the highest interest rate debt. Throw every extra dollar at that one until it's gone. Then move to the next. This is called the Avalanche method, and mathematically it saves you the most money. Let me give you real numbers. Say you have 3 debts: a credit card at 24% with a $5,000 balance, a car loan at 7% with $12,000 remaining, and a student loan at 5% with $20,000. If you have an extra $300 per month to put toward debt, The Avalanche method would save you approximately $2,800 in interest compared to just spreading payments evenly. And you'd be completely debt-free about 7 months sooner. Principle number 3, build collateral so you can access better debt terms. This is playing the long game. The reason banks give the rich low interest rates is because they have assets, so start building yours. Open a brokerage account, even if you start with $50 a month. Over 10 years at an average annual return of 10%, which is roughly the historical average of the S&P 500. $50 a month becomes roughly $10,300. That's not life-changing wealth, but it's the beginning of collateral. It's the beginning of being treated differently by the financial system. Principle number 4, use real estate leverage intelligently. This is probably the most accessible version of the rich person debt strategy available to ordinary people. You can buy a property with as little as 3 to 5% down using an FHA loan or conventional financing. Let's say you buy a duplex for $250,000 with 5% down. That's $12,500. You live in one unit and rent the other. If the rental income covers most or all of your mortgage, you're essentially living for free while building equity in an appreciating asset using the bank's money. This is exactly what the rich do, just at a much bigger scale. Bigger Pockets, the real estate investing community, calls this house hacking, and there are thousands of documented cases of regular people using this to build six-figure net worths in under a decade. Principle number 5, invest in your financial education like it's a job. Remember that information asymmetry I talked about? You can close that gap. Books like The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, and The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley are genuinely life-changing. And they're free at most libraries. The return on investment of a single good financial book might be the highest ROI of anything you'll ever encounter. If reading I Will Teach You to Be Rich convinces you to negotiate one salary increase of $5,000 per year, and you invest that difference over 20 years at 10%, that one book generated roughly $315,000 in wealth. From a book that costs $15. Principle number 6, protect yourself from the poverty premium. Check your credit score regularly using free services like Credit Karma. Dispute any errors immediately. Studies by the Federal Trade Commission found that 1 in 5 consumers had a verified error on their credit report. Improving your score from 650 to 750 could save you over $50,000 in interest over a 30-year mortgage. Refinance high-interest loans whenever rates drop. Call your credit card company and ask for a rate reduction. A 2022 Lending Tree survey found that 70% of people who asked for a lower rate received one. 70%. But most people never ask. Let me bring this all together. In Act 1, we saw the raw numbers. The wealthy borrow at 2% to build empires, while average Americans borrow at 24% and sink deeper into holes. The strategy of buy, borrow, die allows the ultra-rich to grow wealth, live lavishly, and pass on fortunes, often without ever paying the taxes the system supposedly requires. In Act 2, we understood why. Collateral asymmetry means banks reward the rich with better terms. Tax architecture favors investment income over earned income. Scarcity psychology makes it harder to think strategically when you're financially stressed. And information asymmetry means most people never even learn the rules of the game they're playing. In Act 3, we built the playbook. Separate productive debt from consumptive debt and eliminate the bad kind with urgency. Use the Avalanche method to save thousands. Start building assets, even small ones, so the financial system starts working for you instead of against you. Consider house hacking to leverage real estate the way the wealthy do. Invest relentlessly in your financial education. And protect your credit score like it's worth $50,000, because it literally is. Here's what I need you to understand. The gap between the wealthy and everyone else isn't just about how much money you make. It's about how you use the tools available to you. Debt is the most powerful financial tool that exists. It can build generational wealth, or it can trap you in a cycle that feels impossible to escape. The difference is knowledge, and now you have it. You don't need to be a billionaire to start thinking like one. You just need to stop using debt the way the system wants you to. and start using it the way the system was actually designed to be used, if you know the rules. I'm Joe. This is Joe Invests. If this changed how you think about money even a little bit, hit subscribe. I put out videos like this every single week because I genuinely believe that financial literacy is the great equalizer. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.